This way we didn't have to have a special meeting.
Caroline guarded that long enough. Return it to.
Oh, did you read the thing from the other guy? I wonder if we should raise him a little.
Henry decides why Whitney's tooting his horn now.
Pardon?
Well, Henry decides why Whitney's tooting his horn.
Well, he's the new Alan Gardner. It was Gardner and McKee, you know, were the committee, and now it's Whitney and Escalante, Taylor.
Oh,
So they're the head of his group.
cheerleading group.
So so that's why he's pounding us. Look, I'm Hoyt.
Oh. I guess it didn't. I guess I should have known that was his kid, but I never see him.
He lives over in PD guy.
Your daughter?
Said we're kind of related.
Anything like his dad, he's a good dude.
Good. Yeah, we did. It was one of our better
Dad's a
concerts.
big old hard-working, good welder, mechanic.
So was Clint.
Well, Commissioner, I'm ready whenever.
Great. I think we're ready. Okay. Well, good morning. Today is November 13th, 2018. Looks like we've scared everybody off with a Tuesday meeting. So, without any further ado, let's, Mr. Coulson, do you want to come and do yours? Since you're the only one present at the moment.
I don't scare easily, Commissioner.
Start with the.
Oh, yeah. I told you I was thrown off. So, yeah, we need to.
Yeah.
George, will you lead us in the pledge this morning? I mean, I'm really thrown off.
All right.
You lead us in the pledge. Mike, would you lead us in an invocation?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father in heaven, we thank thee this morning we could gather together for a county commission meeting. Thank you for the opportunity many of us have to serve the citizens of Iron County in our various responsibilities and assignments, and we pray that would help us to do so in an efficient and appropriate manner. We pray that would bless the county commissioners today as they consider various items and issues on the agenda that are of interest and concern to the citizens of Iron County, that they'll make a decision that's in the citizens' best interest, and that we will continue to be worthy to receive the great blessings of freedom and liberty that we have in this great country, and say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you.
All right, I put a copy of my budget summary in front of each one of your heirs. So we're running along pretty good. I'll probably be turning some money back in. I won't be able to spend it all this year. So I don't really know what more to say about it other than we don't have too many more purchases. There's a few more slight, so it'll change, but only slightly. As far as my grant money goes, I've got till June of this coming year to spend 2015 money. I'm going to be getting with Pete Kuhlman down in Washington County and looking at what's within that grant money to spend. So, other than that, any questions for me, commissioners?
Not for me.
George, what's happening with the generator in the EOC with the Gold Cross? Anything?
Actually, I don't know anything about that, Commissioner. So that's not a.
Well, when we met with Gene, remember, he said
Oh,
it was on his agenda.
okay. We'll check into that. So.
We said, well, as long as we're there, we'd probably participate some on that cost.
Oh, are you talking about in the EOC or out at the Burrell Station?
You're right. I'm talking about the ambulance
Okay,
building.
that's what threw me off. Was actually we've got a proposal in front of the county attorney right now to deal with that Burrell Station, and so we're working on it right now.
With the borough?
Yes.
Because we're trading them around, but you and I talked to Gene about maybe county participation in the ambulance generator.
Right.
As long as we were still there, and I hadn't heard from him, so.
No, and
what
we're
I
still
mean,
right now we're working on the matter that's right before us right now is the tower situation. So and the repeater equipment. So we're addressing that first, and then we'll work on that next one.
I'm not sure what the problem is.
The emergency management owns, or we're responsible for all of the repeater equipment on the 5 towers in the county. And both the rural fire departments and Gold Cross use that. 80% of the traffic is Gold Cross, 20% are my rural fire departments. Some of that equipment is all of it's expensive. The least expensive piece of repeating equipment I've got is $800. The most expensive is $5,000. And Gene, Mr. Moffitt, graciously offered, since Gold Cross uses 80% of the traffic, that they're going to do an 80-20 break with the county, so that if anything happens to any of that repeating equipment, 80% of the cost is absorbed by Gold Cross and 20% by the county. One, it's a pretty gracious offer. He didn't have to do that, and secondly, it's really cost effective for the county to be able to have that kind of agreement with them, which will allow us to make sure that it's not only fixed when it's broken, but maintained during the year, so that we have good transmissions for our rural fire departments.
Yeah, he mentioned that day we met with him.
Right.
I've forgotten that.
Right. So that kind of addresses item 6 on the agenda, which was not my normal budget, and that was that agreement. I would certainly encourage the commission to accept that offer. Again, it's pretty gracious of Mr. Moffitt, and it's fiscally responsible for the county. So.
Yeah, they've been good. They've been a good business. They've been a good business partner with the county, and the things we've done. It was just a good move way back when.
Well, and the once I start moving things out of the basement of the Gold Cross building and moving it across the way to the basement of to the EOC, that I understand that building will completely revert to Gold Cross because we don't own any part of that anymore.
We don't own any now.
Yeah,
We're
that's
just there as,
right.
as freeloading gas.
They've graciously allowed us to,
We
yeah.
provide space out to Burl
Right.
for them, so it's been a good agreement.
Mr. Edwards has we're addressing the Burl issue too. Okay.
All right, thank you.
All right, sir.
Appreciate your time and effort.
Thank you.
John?
Good morning. Among the many papers I put in front of you this morning is my little budget report with my write-up on it. To start out with, our budget is doing well. We haven't got all of the election invoices yet, but we anticipate to be within budget overall. We have had, because of the extra effort during this election, we did have some employees max out their comp, and they will have to be paid in overtime, which will exceed my $150 overtime budget. But I think I should be under overall. We've discussed this before, but vehicle fuel is still a problem, but it should be offset by vehicle operations. My vehicle operations should end the year under where my vehicle fuel ended up over, and that was that billing problem we discussed before. In terms of the election, there was 77% turnout for Iron County. I was very proud of the county. Everybody got out and voted. We had, by the Monday night before election with vote by mail, we had 50% turnout and counted that night. And that was before Election Day even started. We received quite a few more ballots in the mail. We had nearly 800 provisional voters. And just like much of the state, we did have some lines. We kind of separated people that were registered from people that were registering the same day. I figured if you had taken the effort to be registered in the past, you ought to maybe not wait as long in line. But people generally had a good attitude, and I can't say how much I appreciate, in particular, all of the poll workers, but we had several volunteers from some of the different cities and towns helped us. Renan helped us from Cedar, and Dave Entz from Canaryville. Paul Bittman came and helped me identify precincts for new registrations. And we had the last voters voting by about 8:40. So we had a line at 8 o'clock, but we were able to get it wrapped up. We figure Proposition 2 brought a lot of interest out, maybe some different demographics than we often see. And the school bond, I think, brought a lot of interest out. And of course, we had the school board. So congratulations to Commissioner Brinkerhoff, who's going to
very important thing.
he's going to go from one frying pan into the fire, I think. But congrats on that win, and a lot of local interest. It was really great to see such a high turnout.
We ever done better than that?
Every election's unique. I would imagine we have, but you say in 2016, which was a presidential, we had 86% turnout. But if you look at a mid-year, I'd have to go back historically and really look and see if we ever did, because a mid-year general election, 77 is pretty good.
I didn't realize 86 did it in 2016. I didn't realize that high.
Yeah, we were 86. Kane was 92 in that election.
All 7 voters.
Yes, they went by mail same time we did.
You got every vote counted?
So we're going to have our canvass in a little while, and it just so happens that by law you can go from 7 to 14 days after the election today is 7 days after the election. So, like I mentioned to Commissioner Blake, I'm actually going to ask for just a little bit of a recess because we got about 10 votes that we can count plus whatever might come in the mail today, and then we can finalize those numbers. But we will have the canvass kind of at the end of this meeting. So we're like 99.9% done, but we want to make sure we get all those votes counted before we present the canvass to the body for a vote.
So by mail still coming would be absentee, and if it's postmarked the day before the election of a regular mail-in, is that still valid?
Yeah, and so we'll check the mail today.
Right.
Yeah, and if there's any of those that can be counted, we will count. The odds get longer with every passing day. And so, if it were, we decided we wanted to go check the mailboxes in Honolulu just in case there were any Iron County absentee ballots. I don't know if you would approve that travel request.
No,
I'll take that. I'll
Oh, thank you for taking
I'll
that,
take that.
sacrificing for the team there.
It's hard on me, but
Oh, brother. So, anyway, some of those from like Maryland or Honolulu or something may still be filtering in, but
yeah.
the local ones should be here. What was that, Commissioner Brinkerhoff?
something unimportant. obviously.
Oh, that's right. As far as staff, I can't say enough how much I appreciate our excellent staff. This was a very busy election. Not only did we have a big turnout, but many phone calls and registrations. These poor ladies could hardly even do their work during the day because they would seriously hang up the phone and that bugger would ring again. And it was great. Everybody was asking all the right questions and getting themselves registered. And but it took a lot of their time and attention. They really sacrificed a lot to make this election happen and be successful. We do have a small office and we share duties and offset for lunch and cover each other for vacation and all that.
John, what's the margin of error on the election day registration? Seemed like that's,
Say again.
what's the opportunity for, not fraud, but just seems like registration the day of election opens the door to.
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so I'm gonna answer it, but I'm gonna answer it I'm gonna answer it I'm gonna answer more than you're asking. So for those, if you come in and register on election day, you will be vetted just as any other provisional voter, okay? Which means you will be given a ballot, you'll fill out the ballot, it will go in an envelope. And once we've had a chance to review your registration to verify that you are who you are, and the state has very stringent laws on being able to prove up your identity and your residency, then we will go ahead and complete your voter registration and then put your ballot in the pile to be counted. But only then. So if you had insufficient registration, or if you were fraudulent, or if you had voted somewhere else, what will happen is we will catch that before that envelope is even opened. And if it is fraudulent, we'll turn you over to the attorney's office for prosecution.
People voted someplace else.
So Utah has an excellent system. It's called VISTA, which is Voter Interface. I can't remember. It's an acronym, but it's one that whenever we receive a ballot in the mail, we will double check your signature. So that's the check there. So if your signature doesn't match, and people are surprised all the time, we really do check 100% of the signatures. We had one gentleman, he voted for someone else, and the signature didn't match, and we caught him. And so that's, in that context, that's how we check that. Once we check that in, though, then you have voter credit. So if you show up at a polling place, it's going to say Del Brinkerhoff has voted. And those are updated in real time. So a lot of our security is contextual in that you have these by-mail ballots that don't even get open until we can verify your signature. And then we peel that bugger off, and we can't tell whose ballot it is anymore. And then they go into their own secure pile, their own little batch, and we slice them all open and we fold them all out and then we run them through the machine. But we take great strides to ensure voter secrecy and vote integrity. Some people wonder about deceased people voting. We actually receive deceased reports all the time, and we take those voters off every day. A lot of people think about elections once a year, but we actually work on that every day of the year as the new registrations come in and as we receive information from motor vehicles and from the Department of Health on people that have passed away. In terms of people who are not citizens, our ID requirements are such that if you're not a citizen, you're not going to be able to successfully register. Or if you try to come in and vote provisionally, we'll still give you a ballot, you'll fill it out, but if you're not legal to vote, then your ballot won't be counted. And so the other situation when people vote is if you were to come into a polling place, show your ID, and sign in on the book, which is kind of that more traditional way that we had, right before we went to all by mail. And that one is the same. It uses that same system, but you have to show your ID. It has to match, and we have to be able to show that you're at the same address. And so those are kind of the three contexts. Provisional is we check you like a regular registration before we count your vote. By mail is the signature for a registration that's already happened. And when you vote in person, it's the ID and being in person and verifying the address through the proper ID. So we kind of have those three different kind of checks for that three different scenarios where you might vote.
Are you gonna have to pick up some part-time help in next general election?
Yes, we will. We had a lot of provisionals, and if the state decides to continue with the same-day registration, which I think they will because it seemed pretty popular, we'll definitely need to expand out. But in 19, I anticipate that we probably will be able to cover things with our regular contingent of vote centers and by mail. Again, we had 50% turnout with this election, not counting. That was just by mail ballots before Election Day. And so to expect 1,500 people to show up on a municipal election after vote by mail, I think is unreasonable. But on a presidential year, I think it really is feasible to see that.
Kennedy would have been shortchanged in Chicago if they'd had a little better count on deceased voters, wouldn't they?
I can't speak to that.
Sure you can.
Let me rephrase that. I won't speak to that. Let's see. Yes, ma'am. So the question is, the question is, there are some municipalities that have kind of leaned toward ranked choice. We, as a clerk auditor group, are against that for now. When we brought that up, and Cindy's question is, if one of the municipalities asks for that next year, what would you do? We can support it. I didn't like the answer I got from our supplier, ES&S, which was, we can do that, but then we have to run it through Excel, and I can't defend that as well as I can. One vote, one ballot, one candidate. So I think we can support it. We haven't been challenged as such to do so, and that we've had. I think there's been a couple of municipal elections where they've done that in Utah, and I think they're looking. Some people really like that. And especially in the era of Count My Vote, where you have multiple candidates, the rub, which is I think legitimate, is that you have the possibility of winning in the election with a plurality, but not a majority. And the idea behind ranked choice is it allows you to get to a majority even with multiple candidates. So thank you.
Yeah, they just said something on the news that the AG's office was going to, I guess, allow, or was, if anyone wanted to try it, the municipalities were given that option or something.
Well, and I've hoped that if we do get to that point, that our vendor, ES&S, will be able to support that by the time we're faced with that as Iron County. And who knows, that might be the direction we go. At this point, we've kind of resisted it only because we don't feel as confident in the way the results would be and be able to do. We like to be able to have, we like to have very defensible results, very auditable, very traceable results. And when they say you have to run it through Excel, that makes us a little nervous. So,
Would that be used any other time besides a primary election?
theoretically, it shouldn't. In a partisan race, you'd have, you'd have your candidate during the general, but in those primaries, that's the most reasonable time to expect that, unless there is like like if you had a school board or an at-large city council seats, it would be just the top vote getters, and those usually aren't majorities anyway. It's whoever has the top pluralities in order. So if there's 3 seats open, the top 3 vote getters would get it, and I don't think in that case you'd need a ranked choice. But if you did have a primary with multiple candidates of the same party, that's where that plurality or that ranked choice would come in.
So a general election with one guy or woman from 5 parties.
Yeah.
You would never be used there, right? Because you wouldn't be forced to vote for anybody even as your second or third choice from another party.
Correct. And the other thing to remember about ranked choice voting is you don't have to have a second, third, or fourth choice. You can just vote one. And so, but like, you take like our Senate race, the national Senate race, we had a passel of candidates from a variety of parties. And so, yeah, that's spot on. Let's see, I'm almost done here. Cindy Robinson will be leaving us in 2019. She's done a good job of cross-training. We're hoping to be able to survive that.
You're going to advertise. She's not leaving till March?
Yeah, well, and I'm going to let her make sure she gets whatever date she, if it's March or April, if she needs to put it back or forward a month, I'll work with Adrian once I know. But I think she's got a date in mind, but I don't want to hold her to it because, that's her life, and I need to support that. So we've got USIP this week. I will represent us on the USIP board. We've kind of talked about this already, and I just maybe want to echo this one more time to make sure that you all feel comfortable with this. But because SRS, the Secure Rural Schools, was funded in association with PILT, which is payment in lieu of taxes, we had the discussion that contingent on whether that would happen, we would maybe include our Special Service District number 3, which receives those monies for our road materials in the USIP, which is the Utah County's Indemnity Pool, for coverage. Are you still of one mind on that, that we want to move forward with that? I was planning on it, but and then we were going to.
I thought that was.
It's not a done deal yet, but.
Decision.
Do you want to go with that?
I think we're united on that.
Okay, so anyway, Commissioner, we need to just get a meeting probably before the end of this month, so that there's a resolution that body has to pass to be a member of USIP and go with that ongoing resolution. So, do you have any questions for me?
Compliments on how hard those people worked for election, in addition to all their other jobs.
I echo that. There's, one of the things that people are surprised at is how many hats the clerk's office wears. And like I say, when you've got a busy election like that, it's hard to get the regular work done. Jeannie has several hundred billings that has to happen every day. Everybody has their own little duties, and
Maybe you should combine offices and you take on budget at the same time.
you're killing me, Small.
Remember,
Yeah. I'll swing in and pick up that cooler.
Oh, I left that at your house.
Oh.
I put it just inside your gate. I meant to text you. Sorry. I didn't want to bother you.
Find it.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thank you. Adrian, come on down.
All right. Kind of a lonely meeting today, isn't it? So I have the Human Resources Department quarterly report, and then also the Public Defender, some brief information to share that relates to that report as well. As for human resources, continues to be no budget concerns. We're within budget and expect to finish out the year that way. So again, no current or anticipated budget issues or concerns. As for hiring and the recruiting that's currently occurring since the last report, these are the following, or these are the positions that we've hired as part of a recruiting process in line with the established policies that we follow. Full-time victim advocate, that's the one that is working in conjunction with the Sheriff's Office and with the Cedar City Police Department. So a new position that is grant funded. We also hired for a seasonal election worker, part-time bailiff, a seasonal deputy treasurer, 2 full-time patrol deputies for the Sheriff's Office, 2 full-time corrections deputies for corrections, and all of those were backfill positions or just positions that had been previously vacant. But we're currently in the process of filling a few corrections deputy positions. We have an active roster in place that's been executed and decided on. Now we're just kind of going through those last final steps as part of the conditional hiring process. Once that's complete, we're getting close to the point, or with that, we'll be, we anticipate to be fully staffed for the first time in quite a while. So that's a good thing. So we've definitely been making some good progress there, and I'm kind of excited to see if it helps out with some of the turnover, some of the hours, overtime issues that we'll kind of monitor it once it gets again to that fully staffed position. And I'll continue to work with Lieutenant Cullors just to see if there's other things that we can do to improve that. But then also the some positions that we just recently posted that are currently being advertised that we're recruiting for is a full-time deputy attorney. Just in relation to the anticipated changes there with the coming new year. We also have a part-time assistant cook position that we're filling to work with to help with the senior center duties, and also a full-time deputy recorder / ownership specialist that again is part of some of the personnel changes that will happen there with the change in elected positions.
Are you receiving applications on that cook job? Seemed like that was.
We are, yes, and actually, as a follow-up to that, it had actually been posted previously, and we, for whatever reason, we just didn't get much of a response. We only interviewed 2 people, and it was requested by Curtis, the senior center director, to repost it. So we actually just reposted that last week. So it'll be kind of for a short time, but we're just seeing if we can get some additional applicants. But
You're overqualified. You can't apply.
Nobody wants me cooking, probably. No, I just noticed that it had come through twice, so I wondered if you had.
yeah, and that's why is we actually, and I sat in on the interviews, and we just felt like that was the best course of action, just to repost it. So some other just points of interest. I always kind of like to report on turnover, just to kind of give an indicator in terms of how that's trending. Through 10 months of 2018, our employee turnover now projects to 11.3. That's just like a 1% increase since my last report, but very minimal. And that's and I always, for clarification, like to state that that's healthy. That's actually a good turnover You don't want that to be it's not optimal to have that 0. You always want a little bit of turnover, but you just don't want anything. I think over 15 and above is, we got other issues going on, but we're right there in that range that, again, I'm happy with that. I think that's a kind of an optimal number. So that's trending well. Workers' compensation claims are also, I expect our rating to decrease. I'm still waiting for that should be coming out, I think, between now and probably in the middle of December. But we've had a good year in terms of work comp claims, continue to trend well there. So, but when I get that actual number that ties into what our work comp like it kind of ties into our expense in terms of what we pay out of pocket, I'll report on that probably at the next quarterly report. And kind of an interesting thing right now, we don't have any active or current unemployment claims. So, and usually when we do, we have only a handful, or, usually that number is very minimal. But at the moment, there's 0. So that's a good thing as well.
How long since we've seen that? Ever?
On the unemployment?
Yeah.
It's we don't have, like when I first started working, so about 2 years ago, I mean, for the first 6 months, I actually didn't see any claims either. So, and then there for a while, we were always managing, between 1 and 3 was kind of on our quarterly reports that we get from the state. But then it's finally just dropped back down to 0. So, and that's just because we try to, as long as we follow our policies and in terms of progressive discipline, whether it's a non, voluntary termination, we can, as long as we're following those policies, which I think the department heads do a really good job with, and they communicate well with me. We work well together. The attorneys are always very helpful. I mean, we manage that well. I would say that's a good, that we work well together as a team. And then a lot of the turnover that we do experience is oftentimes just voluntary, just people moving on to another position. So that doesn't, have an impact on our unemployment either. So, this week, in fact, starting this morning, we have open enrollment insurance meetings. There was an email that's been sent out a couple of times with the calendar, with the dates and locations and times. I think, if I remember correctly, I think Betsy from the HR office and Carrie from the auditor's office, I think they're at the landfill this morning, but that's just starting, and so they'll be busy with that. Every employee, is just a reminder, every employee has to participate. We don't have, we have an active enrollment to where they actually have to physically come in, and we will walk them through the steps, and especially answering questions this year with the changes in some of the coverages. But we expect that to go pretty smooth, even with the changes that have occurred. We don't anticipate any issues. It's just sometimes there's questions, we address them, and move on. So, let's see. Also, another thing that just over the last couple weeks, employee performance evaluations have been in the process of being completed. I've received. I probably should have I could have calculated a number, but we're probably 80 to 90% on completed evaluations. There's some departments, various reasons, understandable that where I haven't got some evaluations from a few departments, but that's okay. I anticipate those to be coming in pretty soon, and then we use that as just kind of an annual evaluation, just a review process that we continue to document as part of an employee's career service. So the questions that have arisen out of that process is just, again, maybe I'll just pose it to you as just what your preference is in terms of department heads. Some department heads have been evaluated and some have not. So I'm just wondering if, and when I say that, usually it's the commissioner that those department heads report to, and your preference whether those reviews occur.
Well, I think they need to occur. I mean, obviously, we don't do that with elected officials. The public takes care of them, but
Yeah, and I guess that's what, when I refer to department heads, the non-elected is what,
I think it's important that everybody's evaluated.
okay. So
Agree.
maybe I can just send out a checklist of what, non-elected department heads haven't had one, and then maybe we can work out a plan to see how those, whether it's done as a group, or if you have special instructions, I'll let you know on the information with that. And then normally we just also try to touch on any anticipated training or other special notes, but I don't really have anything to report on those sections at this time. So that's pretty much it for the HR functions of the department reports, unless you have questions or something that you want me to touch on. Okay, thank you.
Thank
And
you.
then, as you might remember, I'm supposed to also touch on the public defender. As during the year, I've become involved in some of the restructuring that we've done there. So the public defender department goes through HR now, and I've continued to work with Lori, getting up to speed, kind of starting to understand a little better in terms of how that works. But maybe just as a brief report, again, these are all things that have been reported to me or that I've been able to verify through the information that I received from Lori, and in my communications directly with those involved. There's no budget issues. Everything's under budget. And I'm referring to just kind of a write-up that I obtained that Lori sent over to me. So excuse me just as I kind of work my way through here. We're still waiting on some tracking reports from the juvenile public defenders. And I do have numbered reports that I can actually send over. I just didn't have a chance to send them over to you yet this morning, but I can send those.
Do I need to send him a monthly reminder to get that report in again?
No, I think that one, the one that you're referring to, it came over. The last reminder that you sent was it a week ago? It came over shortly after that. I think this is something different that's not behind. I don't think yet. I think we've got some time, but if that's needed, we'll reach out to you again. Sometimes that's necessary. Let's see the. Jeff, just as a point of interest, the contract for Jeff Slack is renewable, but I don't remember the date on that. Do you actually?
Lori just sent me an email in response to my email telling her what was approved and what wasn't and stuff with budgets. And she said that his contract is through January 1st. Hang on, let me read it. She says, Jeff Slack's contract is due for renewal prior to January 1st, 2019.
But we didn't plan on any budget impact on his new contract.
We did not plan on making anything. And what we said is we'd look at them as they came due rather than especially mid-contract. So he is requesting an increase, and we have right now, as it stands, budgeted not to do any increases.
So yeah, I knew it was coming. I didn't know it was that soon, but yeah, I appreciate that. So it might be something we'll just have to.
That's pretty simple. He either signs his contract or
There
he
you go.
doesn't.
So it'll be something that we'll bring to you here soon for a report in terms of where that stands then.
So, time out a minute. Are we doing more than one meeting in December?
There'll be one on that first yeah.
Meeting in,
I mean, we can do it if you need.
Don't we have a final budget meeting, or is that gonna be it, just the one?
well, the budget will be done.
Yeah.
So the point is, Adrian, you need to have his contract back for approval prior to
So that,
in
yeah, we'll target for that December then. And
whatever 2 week, whatever the meeting.
Or if you can get it by the by this next December, November meeting, that would be ideal.
I was
Yeah.
planning on finishing up 2019's budget this second meeting of this month. And doing the final budget for 2018 in the first meeting of 2019. That way the first meeting of December, that way we don't have to.
And that'd probably be our last meeting, that's the point.
But we're talking about 2019's budget, what this would affect, which I'm gonna try to do a budget hearing next, wrap that up. We can push that clear till December, especially if there's any stuff that we don't have yet, or there's controversy on something, but I'd like to get it wrapped up 2 weeks from yesterday, 2019.
We'll see if we can have the necessary conversations to have something ready for the next meeting. Then we'll just
It's gonna be a big deal, he either is or he does or he doesn't.
yeah. But then we'll just know what direction we need to go if there is any change that occurs. So, but yeah, we'll take care of it. Lori just wanted me to mention that appeals is still also under budget. Dell Sessions doing a very good job. There was I think this was some communication that came through you regarding adoption services. So maybe so this might make more sense to you. I'm not personally up to speed on this, but she just said that Dale had sent an email saying just to let us know that I've been selected on the adoption representation list for Southern Utah. I'm not aware that there is another attorney in the Cedar City, Iron County area that has been selected, but perhaps there are others. Thanks for forwarding this to me. I think it was the notice in terms of the available selection process that Lori kind of notified him of. So then he says, I'm pleased to use my services to assist those who need help. You might want to pass this on to the commission since they have apparently opted into the program. So that's the part that I wasn't sure. Does that ring a bell? I'll look into it more. So that's I wasn't sure if it was something that was on the radar or not. But and then he just said, so if in closing, he just said, if I were to be appointed, the commissioners would just need to know that there would be an obligation to pay at a reduced fee amount. So I'm not sure if this is a service that's obviously outside of his realm, the realm of his regular duties, but again, or maybe I'll probably have just Lori reach out to you with an explanation, and that's probably the best course of action right now, because again, it's something I'm not really up to speed on. And then that's it. So just wanted to, and then I'll just send out copies of the running totals and the running reports in terms of the hours and dollar figures. But it seems to be going well. We're still just trying to transition it. So okay,
Sure.
Great.
thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. Anything from the commission?
Oh, it'll save.
I think we should have a meeting on the 24th of December so Dale can meet with us one more time.
Have a good time, I'll call in.
Anyway, I'm going to miss Iron County Coordinating Council tomorrow because I'm going down to that briefing or that meeting to plan congressional briefings where we'll bring people out.
Yeah.
So that's something we need to do and bring them into Iron
Doing
County.
5 County, and Mike's teaching tomorrow, so he'll just have to limp by in our absence.
You'll have to send him a written report from 5 County.
Yeah, I will.
Okay, then I'd like to report that a while back we had a pretty good controversy between ranchers and Division of Wildlife, especially in a meeting in Beaver County regarding bighorn sheep was kind of the pinch point of contention. But anyway, Division of Wildlife is really stepped up. They're having a meeting right now, start at 10 in Beaver, that obviously I can't make it to, but Scott Stubbs, one of our local sheep ranchers, is going to give me a report on that. But he said he felt like Division of Wildlife's really stepping up and trying to make things better and try to help the conflict between sportsmen and livestockmen. They need to work together. I mean, anytime there's a treatment, a vegetation treatment, it's good for everybody. So we just need more of that kind of collaboration. So anyway, and along with that, we have our forest stewardship group that I've talked to you about, and we met with with an expanded group on the 1st of this month in Panguitch. Lots of agency people there. But anyway, we're going to try to get some of these 20-year contracts going where a person that's in the timber business or somebody that's wanting to do treatments, you know, if they can receive the funding, that they would have a 20-year window so they can plan to work an area in it. So obviously we need a lot of that in the state of Utah.
Yes.
And all over the country. So that's all I have. Thank you.
The only thing I've got, I'll just report on the Children's Justice Center Dancing with the Community Stars fundraiser. That took on a life of its own this year with Scott Phillips and Fred Adams taking over the helm as the producer directors of the show. It really turned out cool. We ended up with about really close to 30 kids from the community involved in musical productions, and a lot of those kids turned out had used the Children's Justice Center facilities and had been personally affected by those types of things, and it was really cool to see them come out and be a part of that and kind of, you know, integrate in with a lot of other kids. That was very cool. Ultimately, it was a fundraising event. I believe the total final number was $50,201, which is ridiculous. This is the 5th year of the event. I think the first year they raised about $4,000. So in 5 years, the total that night was 48,000 something. We were $1,031 short of 50. A local businessman stepped up and called and says, "Hey, if I kick in $1,031 to make it an even 50, would you care?"
Wouldn't accept it.
We said, "No, that'd be great." And then the day after the event, one of the dancers brought in another $201 that they had of ticket sales and fundraising efforts. So, and that money goes to improvements on the facilities, training. It can also be used for upgrading medical equipment and providing equipment for the therapists that are embedded in the schools. And it is very appropriate that Nicole walks in right now. It was almost as if on cue.
Well, I felt that I was being summoned.
Nicole was the winner of our VIP, one of the winners of our VIP package at Dancing with the Stars.
And it was truly a VIP experience. I had my own butler.
Awesome.
How are the snacks?
They were very good.
Oh, good.
Very, very good.
Good.
That guy was really good at buttling, whatever they do, whatever the verb is.
The verb.
He had to act down.
Really?
I was just outside of the VIP zone.
Yeah, you should have just reached over the velvet rope.
I didn't dare. That guy was pretty intense. He might have acted.
Oh, that was a huge success, and there was a ton of involvement from the community. I can't thank our citizens enough. We literally had a packed house. It was a sold out show. Opened up the balcony at the Heritage Theater, and it was literally a standing room only event. It was awesome. That'll go a long way. It'll go a long way for those kids, and it really makes it so that the CJC doesn't ask us for money. So those types of things are really beneficial as far as the county and the budget as well. It really gives them a lot of leeway to do what they need to do and operate outside of our funds, which is great.
Well, you're right there. Commissioner Blake was one of the main organizers for this year. I want to make sure he's recognized. Tremendous amount of work put in there to make that happen and be so successful.
It's a worthy cause. That doesn't seem like work.
Lots of pictures of
Oh man, I did have to wear knee-high boots. I was one of the MCs of the show, and the next day I couldn't walk. I kind of just hobbled around with the knee-high pirate boots. But to raise that kind of funds and to be involved in that kind of thing, I'll wear knee-high boots every once in a while.
Save those for political events too. Sometimes you need them for a different reason.
Right.
Sharpen them up a little.
Yeah, I'll make an idiot out of myself one night a year for that cause. That was awesome. So I really appreciate everybody involved. And there's really too many people to thank. I really could go on and on and on. But the SUU ballroom dance team did a wonderful job, and it's a fundraiser for them as well. We pay them to help out. That's kind of their, it helps that group as a fundraiser. But everybody did fantastic. So thank you.
Cool.
That's all I've got.
Well, right on time.
So we'll come back at 10.
We already passed it.
So did you pull up Black Iron?
Well, I didn't yet. But before the yeah, we're gonna wait till. You know, when I looked at you this morning, it still didn't click, but I thought,
Very, very sneaky.
Hey, that's better.
Oh, yeah. Sure, but you're good, you're gonna be able to suffer through a 20-minute interview from.
Hey, how are you? Well, Michelle hit me up the other day at the gym. Oh, yeah, I work with Joanne. And I was just like, so, 5 in the morning, I'm not. It's the longest time, and I shouldn't admit to that. But then I was like, oh, yeah. Anyway. It's really funny, because I didn't realize that's where she worked. Yeah. What do you get called? Oh, and then like, I was trying to have it show, right. So very self-care. Joanne, yeah. Right. And so, but, yeah. And she must have, I worked with Joe, or then Joanna. Just, I didn't know she was
Same thing when I walked in yesterday and I saw Joe.
Yeah, good stuff.
I was gonna say,
Yeah, but then I included, I don't know her that well, just she was spent a week in the gym and inspiration. Took the whole summer off.
Oh, yeah. I need to do more of that. I mean, like that, because you have, how are you, that schedule, you have that time to go for season 5 and I should do more stuff outside, but. She's one that, together, the group.
Okay.
Like we have our last one this weekend, so.
Cool.
I'm not gonna do that, yeah. I've always been like, last time, no, I'm good. Addicted, I don't wanna. So we're like, no, we'll do this year, we talk about next year, I'm like. Oh, yeah, it's fun. Our last one is so fun. It's just, I don't know.
I've only done one, but I thought it was fun.
Yeah, which one did you do? Was it the?
In Mesquite or wherever, outside Mesquite.
Oh, the.
You like it?
Or the.
It was super.
See, in that one, it was. It was so hard, of course, it's the end. Like, the beast, and like,
well, I sent
now this is gonna be
Right.
hard,
Right.
That one, that aggravating,
Really?
and kind of running down with trickery. But it was way easier to do, more on the go.
Don't you have something worth it?
Oh, I know.
And
I do,
sometimes
actually.
it's not at this
Oh, yeah.
Cal Robinson called me. I laptop today, but I'll look at it
Oh,
today.
the other side, but it was
Like problems from D's in 1994 are like
went in and out of the
just before my time. Yeah, I'm like, well, I can't tell you what they did, but I'll look into it and see what I can.
Hard to straight, like it wasn't.
I didn't work here in 1994. I was a sophomore in high school.
I loved it when they do that. That's so long to me. Right, and I was just, so I was kind of.
Jill Horton loves to call me, and even though it was,
And where's that?
that problem she brought up.
But maybe it'll be our hardest one.
She wants
I know you are, and the weather and the, so I'm excited just to be accomplished this year, be like, okay,
So she always calls me.
you know.
Christine,
Oh,
Dad.
Jill Orton. Jill Orton.
You could tell Kristen.
I know. Monday night. So, hey, good to see you.
Always on. Hey, Adrian.
Hey,
Pro radio.
how are you?
Good. You?
Yep, good.
Always listening to radio. Yes. And I'm like, oh, how you feeling?
Keep 'em guessing, huh?
Hey, and I.
Like this would be better.
Steve, really nice, sweet. After a holiday, it's just kind
Yeah,
of,
it's,
kind of.
feel it, don't you?
Oh, you come back, yeah. And I was like,
Which is the,
came into too much too quick. I was like, oh wow, I've got to reroute my day. Anyway, I'm getting here now, so that helps if I didn't have.
You have some notes, so is there something?
We hardly.
She's that same.
He's not a
Better,
critic.
right?
So sometimes we have issues there.
It's on you guys' end. Things started.
I just
Make a list.
I mentioned to them that we're in the process of, we have that active roster with corrections specifically, and but didn't he use first time? His roster is actually, they've been fully staffed, right? I know it just makes a lot of sense. It's kind of a neat, it's been a while. Help settle things down just a little bit.
For sure. I think we'll end up having a.
They are easier. Yeah, Shelley's really good. Shelley's really good. Marcus is
I'd still rather deal with somebody
Sure,
who's
that would be
accurate
true, but
rather
that's
than
my
make
mistake.
stuff.
and he's really good.
I like
a
Jamie
good time
conditional.
at studying.
Like, on those letters are like.
Yes, no, I.
And the reason why, and I'm sure you remember, and you wait, just wasting that time. You have to resend out more and start.
Use that time as kind of a head start, don't you?
But so far, everybody's been really responsive, and this has been really probably the best list. I just have so. I would like.
What's the deal with the young military? It's not the time or place to discuss it, we're just saying.
So you were on there. I just didn't quite feel right. Yeah, there was just, everybody all talk.
Yeah, I remember
The
people-
building didn't even know what it was. We're scraping, and it's like, you have to exhaust it. You got those letters.
Payroll stuff.
Yes.
Very buggy for that.
I just said,
Today?
where I feel like I'm still learning every day.
I think I'm caught up.
But anyways,
I think so.
just, it just more.
I told him I'd check today to make sure. Said I had something,
Psych, I'm just hoping that.
but I think I'm caught up on the payroll books.
Public safety building.
But they say,
She just erroneously wrote that in the notes.
say,
Are you guys doing any kind of
feeling, I tell you right now,
Oh, yeah, it was,
for me anyways.
She was confused. It's in the right budget and it's in the right place. And she just wrote the wrong thing.
That's probably not accurate.
Yeah. She's like, that's good to see that. I'm actually checks on these
I
things.
catch things like that.
And that's why they were all like,
No, you're, thanks for that. Yeah, but it's fine.
Sort of Mitchell
Yeah,
was,
has Gary bugged you to
he's the
update
same one, right? That's what he was saying, he was in,
You're doing it a week ago. You haven't yet, have we got a
said
list
it's
yet?
like amazing.
Well, he's convinced the auditors. Yeah, but he doesn't want to look at them.
Process.
well, we're just doing
good to get a kick.
most of the time.
All the boys can sleep.
Well, he'll usually start like
Very good.
as far as what you
What we'll do on that,
can get it good, you know, with the
he wants to spend 2 hours with
pass it on air again, whatever. And I swear like sometimes I'll pick
you'd rather be
and he's like, fine, that's fine. He nailed it.
I can go either way. No, but that works better, so I'm saying, why don't you guys be here at 10:30, 12-ish? I don't, 2 o'clock, I have no idea what, you know?
That would be good to get a break. That's been so considerate.
And it'd be nice
Oh,
if
so
we
that is-
could get weddings. I think
It's been, I mean, it's me and
It
he's
trickles
almost
down to
90.
everything. It just like when you're just running just a little bit
Not that
short
she couldn't
all the
come
time.
back.
It's
I just thought
like
there was
people.
four of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Kind of a Nazi.
Yeah, it'll be,
And it's a reception lane.
You stand the house under with your, in my life. You over there.
But that's probably wise.
Where'd that one come from? No, it's different. You're drinking.
Yeah.
I hope that maybe.
I didn't say that too. But we'll see.
So sometimes.
We'll see how that goes.
So that is the night.
That'll be where
Awesome, but we're like 3/4 way done with our. I didn't really look at it really good, but I should have. That was
Yeah.
Oh my god.
All right.
And I like mine. I was like, wow, that was
You are, huh?
way more broke up than, it was good.
Yeah.
Besides.
I can't remember where he got that or if it's been used in the past.
We're never gonna be more honest.
We'll do what you want us to do, but look this over and see like do you have any issues with this and things gonna work best. So that's fine.
There was a real food
Yeah, so but yeah, I just so if you're the same opinion where that would you think that work a little better, then yeah, I'm all for it.
Especially where they
Well, just by the time we said it, I was like, I do like in 10 days, I didn't even really look into it, but outreach and all that stuff.
I guess I was kind of assuming that maybe that had kind of made the circle around his partner with you and
The one I got
And then
sent
you
was
just-
the one you sent out to everybody. It's okay, it worked.
yeah. And that's the one I sent to Dale too. He's the one that responded back to me saying, you know, we're thinking, what are your thoughts about us? If we just use this one, I'm just like, yeah,
But
that's
in
fine.
growing county, it's no way to
Be
be
that
that
way.
way. Because you have to.
Because it's, I understand that public safety is a little bit different, so if you need more of it broke out, more structure. Because the one that, the rest, I mean, the standard form is just a little bit more broad and not specific. So, but
Oh, it's so for sure. Made sense, you still see people value it. It's hard to, you know,
yeah.
it's.
That's the thing too, that's what I told him, is I said, it's fine, 'cause I'm not married or in love with that form, you might really change it next year again, and I don't know, we probably need to have some more. Because with the little change, I mean, I saw it, I mean, it improved just a little bit in terms of some of the issues. It's certainly not. Lost things. It's obvious. Yeah.
Just don't worry about the impact. Just focus on the.
Yeah.
I don't know. Using it. Good enough.
Yeah, I'd like that. Isn't it?
Within the sound of something going on, they see
Oh,
you
yeah,
real
it's like,
quick,
oh,
you know,
school's
going
out,
on.
what? I'm not gonna. I just. It's hard to juggle it all, you know?
The kids get Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I've got little ones.
Anyways.
I have, well, I have Tasha's full, my 3-year-old, and then Sky, she's in kindergarten, so I still have to have that little club after an hour. Off of it. Which is still enough to make you.
Yeah, just one more thing.
Oh, yeah.
So she's not, I think she's
Yeah. It might be like a really, in fact, I mean, it probably is the ideal example for that. Why we
Should we get going again? Hello.
Here's an example. This is what we ran into. This is why. So, because that was one thing you guys look at. Popped up was have a ton of evaluations on it, and none of them. I don't think in terms of issues that they're trying to get on. So, it'll be fun. So, yeah, the mediation would be done in Salt Lake.
She didn't want to come here. She doesn't want to go to UAsh.
It probably has
She
this
does some hard work.
What was Patsy's answer? No, I don't give a shit. That was the,
She registered herself too.
Yep, we got a quorum and John's back. So.
Oh yeah, it'd be good to have a clerk to record this thing.
Excellent.
We'll be able to roll right into it.
John,
I'm sorry.
I never found that
Extra
water
time.
straw.
It's okay.
I don't know where, it's fine. But
I figured that's where you were.
Dale, Mike has 3. Mike Edwards.
I'm a bigger drinker.
I have this one. I have this one that's been here a couple weeks.
What?
I have this one it's rolled over a couple of weeks.
Been here for.
All right, we're back. It's about 11:15. The reason for the
Clock's off.
yeah, the clock's off. It's 10:15. It used to be 11:15 a couple of weeks ago.
Could be still.
The reason for our extended recess was at the request of our county clerk. We had some more ballots that came in this morning. We just wanted to make sure that all of those ballots were counted before we address the canvass of the ballots later in the meeting. So that was the reason for our extended recess, and so that's all taken care of. So moving on to item number 1 on the calendar is public comments.
I'm just going to make a comment as UAC president to make sure that you know you are all welcome to UAC. It will be my last hurrah, so to speak. Changed the format this year, so any feedback on how that works or didn't work, please let us know
In the
after.
Friday afternoon?
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
The Thursday, Friday, rather than have that big break. I don't know how Jeff and your wife are going to get down there, but we'll figure that out. So we don't have to go home and get them and come back.
Oh, I'm planning on it.
Okay.
But then Tammy, we had 2 days, go to 2 days, and then Tammy pulls a meeting or calls a meeting on Wednesday.
Wednesday, I know. So also on Wednesday, because of that, then everyone pulled meetings. So Wednesday, there's the newly elected officials, the public lands, and an MCAT board meeting. So all at the same time. But anyway, so it should be, entertainment will be a little different for Friday night, but it should be good.
What is it? I didn't see it on the
I know, it's
agenda.
a surprise. No, they're having, they don't call them hypnotists, a mentalist, but he's supposed to be really, really good. So we'll see. And I'm guessing we got whatever gift. I haven't heard. Did they change that? I don't know. We might need to
We'll take care of it, ma'am.
follow up with that and make sure that's done. But
So we don't need earplugs this year,
no,
like Motown?
no, you'll be good. It should be a good conference. And then, like John said, there's the USIP dinner and then the banquet. So
And then
see you
Curtis,
all there.
little
Yes, that will be interesting. This will be the first time that in anyone's knowledge that we actually have a contested race for president. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, I can't make it. I'm doing 5-county Wednesday anyway.
Yeah, so
And we'll be unrepresented at coordinating council Wednesday. Whoopee.
I think the mayor was making some promises about coordinating council at Dancing with the Stars. Now I can't remember what it was.
I don't remember what she
I
said.
think it was
but-
something about the mayor and Enoch. Anyway, but we'll see you all in St. George.
While you're there, congratulations on that appointment or your election to that, and being on that UAC board for, and you'll still be another year, right?
Yes, I'm still on the executive board as immediate past president. The last board meeting was kind of contentious, so it's, my whole platform this year was civility, and I think after the last board meeting at Daniels Summit, I don't know that I was very successful with that, but still a good reminder.
You
Hopefully
served well.
the board meeting on Wednesday night will not be as contentious this time. but
We appreciate your leadership.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Represented Iron County very well. Thank you.
Yeah, I am actually now on the NACO board, so
Good.
Moving on up.
I don't know about that. Just, I was gonna say, just a girl that doesn't know how to say no, but that sounds really bad, so.
Okay, seeing no other comments, move on to item number 2. Dan Jessen with the presentation of the 2019 tentative budget.
Dan, were you going to do a presentation? I didn't even think about that.
No.
Okay.
I'll do a presentation next week when we have the public hearing.
Okay.
No, so in fact, this presentation doesn't even have to happen, but it's more of an informational thing, just to kind of give everybody an idea. So the tentative budget was filed with the commissioners November 1st, and I'm gonna just hit just a couple of highlights, and then, but I'll do an actual budget presentation with a thing when we actually do the adoption of the budget. Now I have that song in my head from Oklahoma. I'm just a girl who can't. I'm just a girl who can't say no. Don't you remember that? No, I'm not going to sing it. If we were on the record, I would. Now that one I could sing all of it. So the budget is currently balanced in its tentative form. There's a few things we're still working through. It is balanced without any appropriations, with the exception of Fund 11. We'll be appropriating some money from the fund balance, and that's primarily due to capital acquisitions and transfers to the road fund. Some of the larger points that we're looking at, there's about a $1.7 million total that
that is being appropriated in capital and fixed assets acquisitions. That includes vehicles. That's budget wide. There is a 1.5% COLA that is contemplated in the budget, which was pursued rather than a adjustment due to the algorithm that Adrian had. It was felt that would be a little bit that was appropriate this year, given the fact that Social Security is doing a 2.8% COLA. We are seeing inflation. We're seeing it locally. We're seeing it in the Utah state, and nationally. Inflation is a big deal. So that's a fairly large thing. I know that the employees will be grateful for that.
Dan, while you're there, will you mention how much we've had to increase the payment on the benefit package?
The benefit package, which was absorbed by the county rather than passing that on to the employees. The number on that, Adrian, do you remember? Huh? 54,000, I think, total. So by the time you factor in that, and you factor in a 1.5% COLA on a $10 million budget, 1.5% COLA it's a big number, you know. And I don't have the number in front of me, but it's around 150,000. So that's about $200,000 in added salary, wages, and benefits to the county employees. On the subject of employees, in the current budget, there were no additional FTOs approved, with the exception of a videographer in the tourism department, and Maria is paying for that new videographer by reducing her advertising budget. It was decided that she spent so much money in developing content that having one on staff would benefit the county greatly and really give us a lot more versatility in what we do. I know that Maria is also looking at revamping the website. Having a videographer and what do you call him, a graphic design type person will be a huge benefit to the county. And again, if she can pay for that out of moving some budget around, that's good. But there was some minor adjustments, seasonal to part-time, a few things like that were granted, but most of the new full-time employees that were requested were not granted. I appreciate the commissioners. They really between a rock and a hard spot on judging between all of the requests. If all the requests were granted, we'd be bankrupt in a year. And so it's a really hard thing to look at all these requests, which most of the department heads really do request in good faith, things they need, and they're told no as often as they're told yes. And that's the beauty, I guess, of the budget. But a few things that are still need to be wrapped up. We're talking about some capital projects which have been kind of sent back to the drawing board that possibly might be approved depending on how things work out. Metal building for the road and weed department, primarily weed department. We've been saving some money towards the salt building, and we're looking at maybe sharpening our pencil there. EOC build out, we're looking for some information there to see if we might do a partial build out or what there. And then there's a few other miscellaneous small stuff that I'm just clearing up as I get stuff back. For example, Maria's tourism board meets so late in the year. I still have some of her special projects for restaurant fund that I need to get put in there. I have numbers put in, but between now and next week, there'll be a few things that'll be adjusted. I do have the tentative budget. It will be put on display in my office. We have to have it on display so the public can come in and inspect it before the public hearing. So if anybody really wants to dig into it, they're more than welcome to come by my office and do so, and I'll even help them and answer any questions if anybody.
Put that on the web till it's final, right?
I don't put it on the web till it's final. We do make it available at the county offices, and I believe fully in transparency. I think if we're trying to hide stuff, there's a problem. So I'd just like to, and I know there's not much members of the public here, but maybe some are watching online. I think the more people that know and understand the budget, the best. It's not that gruesome 110-page document that if I print it out of the system, it gets. This is a 23-page document, and that includes a title page and a table of contents. So it's really only 21 pages, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions from the public. But we'll plan on, unless there's some earth-shattering thing that needs to be decided by the commissioners, we'll plan on doing a public hearing, and I'll actually have a presentation. I'll keep it concise. Next meeting.
And adoption.
What's that?
And adoption.
And adopt it. Yep. Then we'll have. Then the following meeting will open, adjust, public hearing, and close the 2018 budget for the last time. I try to not have those in the same meeting because otherwise it gets really confusing to people to figure out what is being adjusted in what period. So if I can, I try and put them in separate meetings, and that's what we'll do. Any other questions from?
Send us an email about Seth and ask you if he do that by phone call or if we need to come over and meet next Monday.
Yeah, Monday. He'll be here Monday morning. He asked for 20 minutes with each one of the commissioners.
Maybe clarify who you're talking about.
Seth is from the state auditor's office. They're not performing an audit. They are doing a visit to all the counties to talk about internal controls. I've gotten them a plethora of information, 2 full requests of all of our policies, what we have in effect. When everything is said and done, they're going to have some recommendations for the counties as a whole, and possibly even some specific recommendations for each county. But he will be doing an on-site visit next Monday. He's asked for 20 minutes with each of the commissioners and 2 hours with Nicole, treasurer, and myself.
Call in or not?
He said what he told me, and I wasn't going to let you out of this, but he said he didn't know if it was the most important thing that he met with you since you're on your way out. But if he could, he would like to. But he could do it over the phone, I'm sure.
Well, I can jockey things around.
I think you scared him a little bit in your audit with the 5 county. And I'm thinking, hey, when a guy's going on when he's on his way out, that's when he's going to be the most honest. It's the exit interview concept, right? You got nothing to hide. You're going to spill all the beans.
Let me know.
Okay.
Jockey things, but it'd be a lot easier if I just called in.
Okay.
I didn't know what he wanted from me anyway.
Plan on that. I'll have him call you.
Okay.
But if we could do the rest of us and wrap it all up Monday morning, it'd be great.
No action on this agenda item.
No. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It was a lovely presentation.
I'm not going to sit down because I'm on the next one too. Yeah. I think we'll just. Do you want to go first? You want me to go first? We'll talk about it. But yeah, I figured we'd do us, and then right around noon, have them. Yeah.
Item number 3 is consider and possible approval of restructuring the Iron County Search and Rescue by creating a new department within the general fund under the supervision of the Iron County Sheriff, and further define the relationship between the department and the 501c3.
So,
Mr. Jessen.
Just to give you a little bit of background on this, there's no real pressing need or real problem. This kind of stems from the ambiguity that exists between the search and rescue, the 501c3, which is a non-for-profit organization that the search and rescue is kind of, there's this big, huge, fat gray area of when the sheriff's department stops and when the 501c3 starts, and where the search and rescue is. Washington County, I watched very closely. They went through a recent audit by the state auditor's office. And I've talked a lot with their auditor's office and watched that. The reason that one started, they were basically in the same boat we were, just kind of really ambiguous as far as the defined roles and ownership of assets and employees, chain of command, all of that stuff was really ambiguous. Their audit was actually triggered by a call to the state audit hotline. Somebody within the search and rescue felt like there was some misappropriation of assets. And the more ambiguous the nature of the assets, the easier it is for there to be misunderstandings, obviously. And so the state auditor's office came in, flexed some muscle, kind of tried to do their whole bull in a China store thing. Washington County pushed back pretty strongly and kind of set them in their place. There was no wrongdoing found, but out of the audit they decided, they really needed to kind of clean up their the descriptions and everything that I'm now proposing for Iron County. And I sat down with Commissioner Blake, the outgoing sheriff, the new incoming sheriff, and Lieutenant Slosser was also invited, and he was not able to he had something come up last minute. And I think that the best solutions are the simple and elegant ones. And what we're talking about doing is we either really need to push search and rescue out and have an arm's length from the county, or we need to bring them under the umbrella of the county. As it is, there's basically three issues, three areas to discuss. One is liability, employees. Obviously, search and rescue doesn't have employees, but they have volunteers. In talking with the clerk, John Whitaker, and verifying with our insurance, when they go on search and rescue, they are under our liability. They actually are signed up as volunteers. If they were to get hurt, they would be covered by workers' comp. And so they're already under the county's umbrella there. If somebody were to sue, they would sue the county. So that really kind of makes the argument that we're not, and we can't really expect to distance ourselves from that liability unless you have the search and rescue completely on their own, and then they're going to have to go out and buy a policy, and that would be quite expensive. Whereas if we bring them in, we're already pretty much we would change nothing in the way we do it. So that kind of goes to the next topic of discussion, and that's assets. See, right now, the county often will buy a lot of the assets or will get grant money, but they're still titled to Iron County. We have a line item right now in the sheriff's budget that just says search and rescue. And he goes and spends money on things. And then when it comes time to dispose of those things, it's, well, who owns them? Where does the money go when they're disposed? Do we keep them on our records? Do we not keep them on our records? There was a case right now that I've been working with Lieutenant Slosser. We have some snowmobiles that were donated to the county. It wasn't money donated to the county. The snowmobiles were literally donated to search and rescue, and they're titled to the county. So you see how it's like, well, who even owns those? And what happens when we sell them? Where does the money go? Does it go to the 501c3? Does it come back to the county's coffers? My proposal is that we bring all of the search and rescue under the umbrella of the county. And in the agenda, it says under the general fund. And the more I think about it, I think it'd be more appropriate to put it in the municipal services fund, where we have the sheriff's department is located. Fire suppression is located. We actually create a department where we can have different line items where we can kind of break out their budget rather than it being a chunk of money that we give the sheriff. It can be so much money, and he can work through that process. Ropes, gear. We can have maintenance of vehicles. Like we do most of the departments. The sheriff would be over that department, The command structure would be very, very well defined there, and with one exception, bringing it into the county, and that is that we keep the 501c3 separate, and basically it would act as a financial organization only. The advantage of having a 501c3 is that people can donate money and get a tax benefit because they're donating to this nonprofit organization. So if you have somebody that wants to donate, and they have a lot of donations, they can donate, they can get their tax advantages, and then the 501c3 will do a grant. They can buy something for the county, they can buy ropes, they can buy snowmobiles, they can buy equipment, which then gets granted to the county. We look at it like we do any other grant. We buy something with it, we own it. There can be strings attached to that grant. You know, this grant is for four-wheelers, and the sheriff can coordinate with that person who's right now it's what's his name, Orton.
Last name's Orton.
Who he's a UHP patrolman, I believe.
Larry just retired from UHP.
No, it's not Larry. It's
He retired.
no, he's not with UHP. He's with.
I was confusing him with Larry Orton from UHP.
Right. It's from. Come on, the UDOT.
Yeah, UDOT. That's right.
Not UHP, but
So Dan, you're going to create a separate fund under municipal services.
No, a department.
Department under municipal services. What about when assets are disposed of? Do the funds go? Where do the funds go?
They go back into the municipal services fund.
So Dan, they're already set up under a C3.
There is a current 501c3.
Do they have funds in that presently? Do they have
Yes.
an account? Okay.
They have their own bank account
In
and
there.
everything.
Donation.
Now, on the subject of the 501c3, Ken expressed the opinion that he would like to broaden it slightly from, and I don't know what its official name is. It's got some legal name, the 501c3, but its main purpose has been search and rescue. But he would like to broaden it and call it like an Iron County Honorable Sheriff's Association or something like that to broaden the appeal for donors. You'll see people that have a Sheriff's Association sticker on their car and they can donate, which would give it a little bit more, wouldn't be quite as narrowly focused towards granting money and assets to search and rescue. They could do something for the sheriff's department or something like that. But that's a different discussion to be had down the road. What I'm saying right now is we separate them and we just have them be a financial entity that grants. And it would be this is not a new concept, right? So the Friends of the CJC board, that's what they do. The Dancing with the Stars, none of that goes through our books. Thank goodness, because the donations is a nightmare. You got to follow a lot of policy. They can do a big event, they can get donations, and then the Friends board will go and buy something for the CJC. And it would work the same way with this and with search and rescue. We would just have the search and rescue in the county. They would operate totally separate as a financial entity, and I don't know. To show you how ambiguous it was, to make this change, I don't even know if there's anything we need to do other than to set up a department and budget it differently. Because all the assets are already titled to Iron County, and you know what I'm saying? That's the problem, is it's been so ambiguous that you could just make a change like this without really changing anything legally that I can think of.
So if I donate to the 501c3 and then the money gets granted to the county and they buy a side-by-side or a four-wheeler or whatever they buy, and it goes through its life cycle and it's time to retire that and dispose of it, it gets sold, and you've kind of clarified this, but I need to understand then that whatever revenue gets made from the sale of that as we dispose it goes not back to search and rescue specifically, but to the municipal services fund broadly.
Right. And that's the way things are now. And there's nothing to say that the sheriff couldn't come and say, listen, we're selling this piece of equipment it was donated to us. It would be in good faith if we actually use that money towards something next year in my budget for search and rescue. And when that relationship is good and the commissioners say, yeah, that makes sense, you know. But technically with donations and grant money and stuff, yeah, things go back into the general, not the general fund, municipal services.
On that one, yeah.
It wouldn't change because that's still going to be within the 501c3. The only time that money becomes relevant to us is when it is granted to us. When they buy something, and I would prefer that they buy the asset and give it to us rather than give us the money and we buy it. But we could sometimes they'll give us the money and we buy it because we may be able to get, you know, use our purchasing power, or there may be sometimes there's a reason why we want to do the purchasing. But one other factor, and when I was talking to Mike this morning on the subject, he said we may want to, just as a course of being really
abundance of caution.
Yeah, have an abundance of caution. We may want to exempt the search and rescue from our donation policy, as a 501c3 donates to the county. And I said, I don't even know if we need to, because it's going to be a grant to the county, just like any other grant. And he said, yeah, still, but it might be nice to, you know. And come to think of it, I wonder if we didn't already we exempted Council on Aging, we exempted the CJC, and I think we exempted. We exempted animal control.
Oh, that's right.
Because there's people that donate dog food and all that. Those were the three we exempted. So we may want to add search and rescue to that.
Policy, maybe.
Anyways, it seems pretty simple and elegant. Everybody involved thought it was. I said, you know, let's poke holes in this. Is there any problems that we have? And I mean, I haven't been able to spot any yet. So. Yeah, and not that they need to accept it, and nor did they demand that they do something. In their case, they were more concerned with was there misappropriation of assets, and it was determined that there wasn't. So specifically, and so this is a good illustration. So what happened was the search and rescue went on a weekend doing a training, and in Washington County they have this like a command and control, like an RV, but it's still an RV. It's like a big trailer. And they went out on a Saturday and did a exercise, and whoever the commander of it was, I don't know if it was a lieutenant or if it was the sheriff or somebody, stayed over one extra night in the RV with his family and he came home the next day. So there wasn't any additional cost to the county.
Didn't he use his own fuel to haul it out there?
Yeah, and he'd use his own truck to pull it out, and he felt like he was voluntarily he was giving more than he was receiving, but the problem was really the ambiguity in the command structure, and somebody was like, he's just, you know, using all this stuff for his own gain, and so they called the hotline, and when it was really looked into, they decided there wasn't anything. There was a little bit of smoke, but there was certainly no fire. So.
Still the kind of thing you want to avoid just because of that.
Yeah, you just want to avoid it because of the optics. But there had been some friction between the search and rescue guy and the sheriff's department, and I think that it really boiled down. Most of these things really boil down to some turf wars, but.
Are you ready for a motion?
I think so.
Anything else?
If there's any other discussion or questions, or I figured I'd put it in the final budget. The way that what I would actually do as of right now today, it's not in the tentative budget, but in the final budget, I would just create a new department within municipal services called Search and Rescue, and its budget would be what you guys already approved in the sheriff's budget. And then we'll fully more develop that as time goes on next year. But I think you guys had budgeted, well, hey, let's look it up and see. Seems like it was around 11,000 bucks.
Been around 10 for years, I think, maybe 15.
Oh, never mind. It's quite a large item, but we have some. It's 47,000, but I think we have some grant monies that's going into that. We have radios,
Probably.
and there was a the pad. They requested that pad in the parking lot. That was approved. That was 12,000. No, it says not added in my notes. 24,000 in radios. I think what it was he had some grant money, and we were gonna give him some. But see, that's the problem is right now I see search and rescue and I see one number. I can't. It's not even all broken out. But anyways, that's what was approved. So I would just create a new department. It's called search and rescue. Move that, and then as we work through, continue to develop line items there. Again, and I think it's obvious here. The goal is not to expand the kingdom that is search and rescue. It is more to better define it and control the whole structure. So
Mr. Chairman, I'd move the approval of restructuring the Iron County Search and Rescue by creating a new department in the general fund under the supervision of Iron County Sheriff.
Municipal Services Fund. It says general fund, but
Sorry,
we're going to put it
yeah,
municipal service.
And what did I say?
General fund.
Well, correct me and put it under municipal services.
Got it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is approved. Item number 4 today is the adoption of Resolution 2018-12, appointing a representative and an alternate representative for the Utah County's Indemnity Pool Annual Membership Meeting.
Who's the alternate, John?
You.
Okay, then I move to appoint the clerk, John Whitaker, as a representative to the USIP annual meeting membership, with Adrian Walker as our alternate.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There you go. That is approved.
Cindy, were you able to visit with my Cindy about those two? Okay. Do you? I mean, which two vehicles? Can you just anecdotally tell us which two they are?
It's a Dodge Neon and a
Dodge Neon. That's okay. So, Madam Assessor wanted to add a couple of vehicles, and we just didn't have all the VIN number and all that, but if you're okay with that, she wants to add a Dodge Neon and a 2000 white Jeep to this list that you've been given for this item.
Okay.
If you're okay with that.
Are all these vehicles out here now?
Some are in Cedar. They're not all necessarily parked out here, but
John,
yes, sir.
there's a regular cab
That's the fair truck.
just added. What's that?
That's the fair truck, and it's not added. It's
Okay. It just showed up like a week ago, and I'm like, is this supposed to be on the surface?
well, it was parked there for years and years. You just haven't been here long enough to know that. That's the only. Yeah, it lives right there. It was.
Personal? No,
It was not. It was just not here while you were. Yeah. Anyway, if you knew something.
until soon. Very soon.
All right. Item number 5 is the approval of items on the surplus list.
John, where's the truck that came in from Chad? We talked about making it into a emergency services truck.
It's here in the parking lot.
It's not here. Did we take it off? Because we talked about doing it.
So you selected a specific vehicle that's got some time on
No,
it.
it's that's the one, two, three, fourth item. If you'd like to pull that one, figured it was, and in fact,
Wait, it is. It's
that's the
204.
yeah, and that's the one Dan you had talked about with that transmission issue.
Talked about possibly looking at comparing it and using it for George is what we kind of just kicked around.
Yeah,
Is it newer than the one he has? I know he's got transmission issues or something like that with the present one.
About the same generation. I don't know which one's technically older.
yeah.
104, and his is a 2000, 2003 generation.
Well, and
Got to be at least a year or two newer, but.
this one, interestingly, this one, as careful as Chad maintains his vehicles, this one particularly was kind of rough on the inside. A lot of the little plastic pieces are
Low mileage truck,
broken.
like,
Haven't got mileage on this list.
it doesn't show mileage, but it's.
164. Remember, I took a picture of that and sent it to you.
Picking that up from John, I don't see it on here.
It's the 1, 2, 3, fourth item. It's that 2004.
Mileage, the mileage.
I took a picture of it and sent it to Dan. That's how I remember.
So how do we determine which one of those to fix? The one he's got or the?
That's above my pay grade. I don't.
Maybe we should pull it today until we make a decision.
And are there any
Yeah.
trucks from the sheriff's office?
He had two on, but then he pulled them.
So like this last item, Cindy thought it was. Yeah.
Like we had requests, had some email requests from Ryan Riddle with fire and also George with emergency management if they could get their hands on those two sheriff's office trucks. Each of them requested one.
George told me this morning that Dale called him and said that they had pulled them from the list, so they wouldn't be available to George.
Okay.
Sure he told
And
me.
Do we? Okay.
Well, let's at least hold one, either George's existing that's not on here, or what's the transmission? A couple of bills, Dan?
2,800.
Do a rebuild for that. Unless you're lucky, there's a known issue with those that it's actually a simpler fix. But it could be a full transmission too. With 164,000, I was thinking it had 120, and then I'd say, man, you may luck out. But 164, if it's experiencing some problems, you're gonna crack it open. You might as well do a full rebuild.
Well, that's a lot cheaper than 30.
It's a much smaller number. That is true.
But
But
you
again,
have-
the
Oh.
question is the one he's presently driving, is it cosmetically nicer? Does anybody know? Can we have it?
I don't know. I know that it's been talked about a lot, but I've never even been in that.
Maintenance
That
costs are
Tahoe.
going up on it.
Yeah.
Every year we've been spending 500, 600, 1,000, 1,500 just maintenance costs. I think it's an 02 or an 03 Chevy Tahoe. It's a half ton, has a V8, so you can pull trailers and stuff like that with it. But it's just been kind of nickel and diming them.
Well, that's cheaper than 30 grand again too, so
For a new pickup.
would
his
you-
concern has been reliability.
would you look at those two items and decide which one makes sense to put some money in, and then before we advertise, John, let him decide whether to keep this one off or go ahead and sell it? Let him decide and recommend either fixing the existing or fixing this.
Yeah, we can pull this one.
But he can do that next couple of days before you advertise.
Do you want to make your approval contingent on what Dan finds out? Then that way we can roll forward with our advertising.
Yeah, so the motion is to approve the surplus property list for 2018 vehicles and add the contingent that the auditor will make a recommendation either to keep the 204 GMC or the existing truck that's in emergency services.
Second.
All in,
And to include on the
Sure, no,
existing
but right
list of two additional items for assessor's office.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is approved. Discussion and possible agreement with Gold Cross Services regarding the use of the Iron County Emergency Paging System.
For all the discussion we had.
This was, Mr. Colson wanted this agreement. I think he talked a little bit about it in his report. Gold Cross is using the electronics. They're proposing to pay 80% of the cost to repair and maintain that equipment. This agreement addresses that.
We better hurry and pass it before they change their mind.
I move approval of the agreement with Gold Cross Services regarding the use of the Iron County Emergency Paging System, with them paying 80% of the cost upkeep and Iron County paying 20%.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did you get all that, Jeannie? Okay, because I was still on number 5.
Item number 7 on the list is the canvass of the November 6, 2018 general election.
Okay. Well, as you said, we were able to get nothing materially changed, but we added a few more votes this morning, and
This one is already
yeah, so there, this one's the newer one that I'm handing you. Yeah. I've got 3 more copies if somebody wants to peruse them.
Any update on the Love McAdams race yet?
You know, I haven't even had a chance to look at it, so I don't know. Yeah, I know it's been close, and I know that they expected the Utah County late votes to lean a little more conservative. There was about a 5,000 vote margin from election day, and it's kind of grown a little bit. We went from 77.03 to 77.10 as of an hour ago. We didn't add a lot there, but there was a little bit of a different total there. Didn't affect materially any of the outcomes. And so I am officially, there's also it's going to be about 300 pages in the minutes because there are 17 questions and 41 precincts, it'll be about that thick by the time we prepare the minutes next time for the precinct breakdown. So this, what you have in front of you is the summary. If you want, I can get you that precinct level 1 before you vote, or if you're comfortable, you can vote on the canvas now. We had a total of 16,067 votes cast out of 20,840 registered voters.
Pretty good.
It's great.
Pardon? You probably better make that motion.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I don't know if it's like
Ready? Everybody studied it enough? I move approval of the canvass of the November 6th, 2018 general election with a wonderful turnout, general election, with a wonderful turnout of 77.10% in Iron County.
1 2 seconds.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Move on to non-delegated items. Do we have anything?
We need to start discussing Water Conservancy District.
We do, and I've had several conversations with them, and that's kind of where we're at. Is we need to discuss that.
We got there's elected Commissioner Cousins going to step down from there? Does anybody know?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Well, if he does, then we'll have two slots to fill.
We'll actually have 3.
That's the problem with Joe Melling anyway. We already
Forgot
have
Joe was on there. Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, we really need to.
So
They're not going to have a quorum.
No,
very quick.
we have 2 now. We have a Cedar City seat that's traditionally filled with an engineer. And we've had several talks and haven't had any takers. And so I actually met with Commissioner-elect Cousins last week and talked about that, and we're going to try and we're going to meet with Paul Monroe and try and actively figure out who would be an appropriate replacement in that spot. Then with well, traditionally has been filled by an engineer. It doesn't have to be. It's just what it has been, and it's a Cedar City position. The other position, with Joe Melling's passing, is that I'm not sure where that position is. That a county? So I don't
think
well, not really county
or
because it's just
Enoch.
Central Iron County. So,
But we did away
kind of
with
at large.
with the city type thing. 'Cause originally we said here's a couple from Enoch, 3 from Cedar, and 1 from whatever. But I think that just went away to a general county or a district board member. So I don't
I think you should look at a new farmer as well. Sorry, Brent Hunter's been on there since the beginning of time.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and we
At least the beginning of the board.
I get that a lot of. Yeah, I hear that a lot. A lot of feedback on that.
and we did get we are going to address that. I got in fact, John, I got an email from John just the other day with all of those appointments and their dates. We do need to look at that.
So he's been on there for at least 15 years.
Right.
Forever.
To get some new.
But most of those elections come up, not elections, but
Appointments?
or reappointment come up in February.
Right.
Now we talked about advertising using your model, Cindy.
It's a great idea.
Did that ever get out there? On
It's
the
not.
website
It's
yet?
not up there yet, as far as I know. Dave Nielsen has been working on it.
It would be nice to have.
It's a great idea.
We need to have a statement from Cousins anyway, before we can move forward.
But it would be really nice to have 2 or 3 people step forward and say they'd like to be on there, and we
Yeah.
can decide just to help our
Get away
process.
from the same 10 people type thing. Yeah.
STM.
Yeah.
STP.
STP. Yeah. Same 20 people.
That's what you put in your old engine.
Son of a gun for STP.
Courthouse.
Anybody know when
Mine's
the
looking
plaque-
good.
The plaque's going to be put on the monument sign?
I don't.
Did a good job with
Yeah.
the brick.
It's exciting to see that come together.
So
Lot of
John, the
comments.
flagpole light's still gonna come off the back of the sign. The
Yeah,
red
and they've got a box there.
box there.
Mm-hmm. Right now, it's just a temporary light, but
And then you're working on an additional chair order and table
Yes.
for Cindy. I talked to Reed
Yep.
and Lester last meeting, and Cindy said Lester had been here, and said we had a little improvement on the cleaning of the building.
Not Lester, the cleaners. I talked to the cleaners, but I haven't talked to Lester.
yeah.
I did,
Okay.
long, clear back then, but you reported some improvement in the cleaning.
Bathroom.
Yeah.
Partly because I walked him in there and said, this vent has not been cleaned since the beginning of time, and there's still tape around the floor. So if you're mopping every day, that is either the world's best masking tape or might not really be. But cleaned up with the construction cleanup, but there's still masking tape on the floor.
And from the construction cleanup, I had asked that somebody sweep and mop the basement. It keeps tracking up into the building. It's just the construction dust and debris. Yeah, it was never.
Better, but we still don't have any, I don't know what you call it, the little paper things that go over the toilet.
All the seat liners.
Carrie, it's probably appropriate that you make an announcement on the 21st, since we'll not be meeting prior to that.
Yeah.
Debbie's retirement party's on the 21st, Wednesday the 21st from 1 right across the hall.
I'll be out of town, darn it.
Please come.
Call you, Johnny, come lately.
We have a good lunch since we're on for BLM at 1:30.
Actually, you might get her too. She's done it quick, right?
We are, and then, what's it, 2? Oh, Steve's, the EWP project update for Paraguna is
Awesome.
at 2. So we're gonna, I may step out of the BLM meeting early. The money's approved, and that's the first step forward. The engineering's going forward. So.
How much is that?
Just about $1 million. Yeah, so that'll do a lot there at Little Creek. That'll be a good project.
I'm excited. I think those are all really good projects for this whole valley.
You got time for a big buck today, Joan.
I think so.
Yeah. All right. We'll be adjourned.
Yeah.
When the 21st is Debbie's party at 1 o'clock. Okay.
Only reason I knew is I saw it on the fridge.
I got an email, I think.
Boxes?
We don't look in our boxes.
Stuff out of your boxes.
No.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. I got the full page. Yeah.
An invitation and everything.
Hey,
Yeah, I did get it. I'm going to be out of town for Thanksgiving, unfortunately, so I'll just have to go and personally visit with her. Not unfortunately,
Let's do
I'm
it.
glad I was going to be out of town.